Oh, we're live. Excellent. Gonna share my screen. This time I won't make the mistake of ending the stream too early. All right. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We'll see if folks will join us. Since I screwed up with the last video, we sent out, thank you, Toy, sent out another link for this one. So if you're watching the other one, I was getting ready for this live stream, and this is my first live YouTube event, which is great, except that I'm learning. So please be gentle with me as you watch this and you join us. Right here, see that we have somebody joined us. That's awesome. And I guess, where we're YouTube live, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. I am so excited that you are joining us today for our very first YouTube live video. And today we're doing a Power Up Philanthropy workshop. So I'm just really excited to have everybody join us. My name is Jackie Colley. I am an osteopathic family physician and a healthcare executive who worked for 25, 30 years in healthcare, and have recently turned author and wellness and transformation guide, I guess you would call her, coach. And I've learned a lot of things over my life, did a lot of leadership programs that I developed and led, and worked with a lot of teams, and have had a number of aha moments over the last couple of years that helped me to create this book. So I'm just really excited to have you hear a little bit about me. And our team members, I will just, I want to shout out to Toy Walker, who just helped me actually get this going since I screwed up the first one. And Toy is CEO for the New Identity Marketing company, and she is awesome for social media marketing. She does all of my work with her team. And then to Christy Garay, who is running her own business. Both of these ladies are doing a super job in supporting me. They have great companies, so I hope that you will allow yourselves to look into their companies as well, because they could probably support you. So big thanks to them. They make this happen. They made the book happen too. And welcome to all of you. I'm really excited to have you join us today. If you would, it'd be awesome to have you post your name, where you're from, just so that we can see where folks are from. And where this is a philanthropy workshop, I just wanted to thank all of you who contribute anything to these two charities that are really meaningful to me. The first one is Feed America. I really do care very, very deeply, being in healthcare, about food insecurity. And that is one of the big issues that we do struggle with in this country. So every dollar donated to Feed America goes to feed 10 meals. So just something to think about. And then I'm a big tree lover. I love nature. I love being out in forest bathing, grounding, whatever you want to call it. I find it very invigorating and very peaceful. It helps me with my mindfulness practice. So Plant a Tree is another great charity where even $1 makes a big difference because trees help to keep our climate nice and fresh and clean and keeps the air clean. And they're just really great to have around. So more trees is better. So why this workshop? Why now? Well, the world's a kind of a crazy place right now. A lot of chaos and a lot of unsettling things going on in the world. And that's one piece of it, right? But another piece of it is that if you look at the facts around personal development and you look how people are with themselves, you see that there's some surprising statistics, or maybe it's not that surprising to you. Do you know that 75 to 80% of people experience negative self-talk during the day? I mean, I know that that comes up for me. It'll come up and I have to kind of squelch it. And for a lot of people, it's a lot of negative self-talk. In addition to that, most people don't continue with their personal development efforts after about 3 months. It's hard to have them sustained over the long term. Change is hard, right? And 92% of people don't achieve their New Year's goals. I don't like to call them resolutions. I like to call them goals. It's something you want to achieve, but it's hard to achieve our goals sometimes, right? And there's a lot of barriers to that. Barriers that are pretty common could be lack of vision, not really sure like how to get started or where to go or where you want to go. Fear of failure is a big one for a lot of people. You know, if I do something, it's different. Will I fail? And fear of change, because change is hard. Changing our behaviors, how we act, how we interact with people is tough. And there's also sometimes shame or embarrassment about some of the decisions that we've made. And we're afraid that if we have to admit them, we might have to admit that we were wrong. And so that will sometimes be a barrier for folks. And I think some other times it might be just how other people are perceiving us. So these are reasons why sometimes it's hard for us to be on that personal development or personal growth journey and continue on it and really focus on it, because it takes work and it takes effort and it can be hard to sustain. And so that's why this workshop. And I'll go into a little bit about my story with you. But the first thing is I want you to know is you should be giving yourself a huge pat on the back just because you showed up for yourself by coming and viewing this today. Whether you're live or whether you look at this down the road, the bottom line is you are taking action in your own personal growth and transformation journey. And that is huge. You've taken action, and any action that you take allows you to move forward. So sometimes you don't know how to move forward, right? So the power framework will give you a process to help you in that journey, or can help to guide you in that journey, or at least be a step in the right direction. And I want you to know that you are not alone, because one of the things that I hope to do by having this program today and going forward is that it's not just helping you with your personal growth and development. It's also helping to foster a community of like-minded people. So, you know, happy to have you come in and be part of our community, DELEAN Institute on institute.com. You can go and subscribe, become part of our community. I have blogs that go out a couple times a month, and newsletters rather. And what I really want to do is foster that community so that collectively we're supporting each other in our journeys and learning from one another and just being there for one another and lifting each other up. I think it's really important, especially now. The other thing I want to do is just give you some of the other opportunities that are there that are out for you. But the biggest thing for today is to share with you the framework, the power framework that is in this book that I wrote. And it's not about selling the book right now. It's really just about giving you that framework so that you have access to that information for free. And the whole goal here is helping all of you reach all of your potential going forward. I want to start with a little poll, if we're able to do that today. Again, this is my first time doing this stuff, so you have to bear with me. But I wanted to ask the group, or get you at least thinking about a few questions. So here's the poll. Personal empowerment is not for everyone. True or false, or yes or no? Let's see what people have. Looks like people are a little shy today. That's okay. All right. Doesn't look like people want to do the poll, may not be able to. That's okay. Why don't we go ahead and just go through these? So, a couple things for you to think about as we're sitting here together. Personal empowerment is not for everyone, true or false. Being in power is the same thing as being empowered. Empower, empowered, sort of the same thing. Yes or no? You have to be in a program to be successful in personal development and empowerment. Is that true or a false statement for you? Empowered means being emotionally and physically strong. Yes or no? And then finally, one can achieve empowerment and personal development if they think about it and really want it. True or false? Yes or no? Think about those for a second. And I'm going to move on to the next thing here. My story. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background into how this book came about. So as I mentioned, I've been a healthcare executive, family doctor for 25, 30 years, had a very successful career. Everyone looking from the outside would say that, oh, she's got this awesome life. But a lot of times I felt like I had imposter syndrome at different times. And I was, on the verge of burnout a couple of different times as well. My family is over on the right lower side. So I am a mother of two grown children now, almost 27 and 30, and a wife. And, so I know what it's like to have to balance and juggle a lot of things. A very busy work life with my family life. And things were going pretty well in our family until 2020. And I know that was the time of the pandemic, but in my family, we had a number of health issues. So my husband was diagnosed with cancer. We were able to get him through his treatment. It was early on in the pandemic. I was able to be in Maine with him where he got his treatment because I was able to work remote, and that was awesome. We got him treated. He did really fine. He's been cancer-free for 5 years, thank goodness. And then I went back to Florida where I was working for a health system down there during the pandemic. And when I flew back down, I knew I was having some issues with my neck. But I just kept going forward. We had a lot to do with all the COVID patients. I was opening an alternative care site for COVID patients. And so when that was happening, I began to have neurologic problems where I had loss of feeling and movement and coordination of my arms and legs. And so it got really bad one day, and I ended up having to go to the emergency room, got a surgery, and found out that I've got congenital spinal stenosis, which means that I have a really narrow canal for my spinal cord to go through. So even a little bit of wear and tear as I got older was starting to put pressure on that spinal cord. They had to do a surgery. I've had a couple of surgeries since then on my neck and my back, but I was doing really well until about 20 months ago. And my symptoms came back. And the funny thing with my symptoms is when I get them, my blood pressure gets all wonky. So it'll go high, it'll go low. One night, I got up in the middle of the night. I was totally lucid like I am right now with you. Started walking across the room to go to the bathroom. And next thing I know, I'm on the floor and I'm bleeding all over the place. And I had broken my neck in a couple of places. And it's because my blood pressure just bottomed out on me. And it was very unexpected. I had to get rushed to a trauma hospital. I was in the hospital for a week. I had 2 surgeries. It was very traumatic, emotionally and physically, for myself and my family. And being in the hospital for a week was one thing, but then I went home and I had to do healing for about another 6 weeks. And so I was out of work. And it gave me a lot of time to focus on myself and do reflection and focus on my healing. And during that time frame, I had a number of aha moments and realized that where I wasn't where I wanted to be. And through that, I started to apply some of the things I'd used in leadership programs and with others to myself. And it really helped me come to a number of aha moments and learn and grow and understand what I wanted and didn't want for the future of my life. And that led me to developing the Power Up framework. I was writing another book And when this happened, it allowed me to pivot and change my direction and create the Power Up framework. So it's a little bit about my story about how I got here today with all of you and why I'm here and why we're doing this Power Up workshop. Because as I went through this process, I was able to birth this book and this framework. And birth is painful and it's hard, but it's so worth the effort in the end. So what I wanted to do was to share with you this framework in a little bit more detail and how it has helped me personally and how I've used this approach with other people throughout my life and seen really positive results for them as well. And my whole goal with this is that it will help guide you, in your personal development. So let's go back and bust those questions. Personal empowerment is not for everyone. False. Empowerment means having that internal sense that you've got it, right? It's having the knowledge, the power, the confidence, and the ability to make decisions for yourself. And that's Merriam-Webster's American Dictionary definition. And so empowerment is for everybody. Everyone can feel that sense of confidence in the ability to make good decisions and do the things that they need to for themselves as they continue in their adulthood. And the way that you do this is through getting to know yourself better. It's through building self-awareness and taking responsibility and accountability for yourself and your choices. The second question, being empowered is the same as being empowered. False. When you're in power, that usually means that there's something hierarchical, a winner, a loser, someone who's an authority. When you're empowered, you have that sense of ability to care for yourself and make good choices. And so being empowered is an internal sense of, I got it, versus a power, being in power where you're in control over somebody else. How about the next bullet? You must be in a program to be successful in personal development empowerment. False. You don't have to be in a program. You don't have to have somebody else do it for you or be there for you the whole time. You just have to take action because you can't think your way into growth. You actually have to take some action. And mentorship and coaching or having a buddy to go through this and have conversations, as you go through the reflection and growth can be really helpful. And help to move that along a little bit faster. But you don't need to be in a program and have someone else, give you grades on how you're doing with your personal empowerment. Not at all. How about the other bullets? Empowered means being emotionally and physically strong. False. You don't have to have it all done, figure it all out, be the strong, person that looks like they've got everything in control. Owning your power, being empowered is all about knowing yourself and being honest and accountable for your decisions and your actions. So it's strength of character. It's not physical strength. It's not like you're perfect. That's not true at all. Being empowered, you can be a work in progress and have all kinds of things going on emotionally for you. I know because I keep going through this like myself. This is all an iterative process. So again, it's around strength of character and being confident in yourself and your abilities to care for yourself and make those good decisions. It doesn't mean you have to be, physically able to lift 250 pounds or be perfect in your life. And then the last bullet, one can achieve empowerment and personal development if they think about it and really want it. No, you can't just think your way to transformational growth. You have to do something about it. And that's where enhancing your self-awareness and accepting yourself and being responsible for yourself comes into play. And it's also why I wanted to help other people as they were going through this process with something that they could use to kind of give them steps to move forward in their own growth. So Power Up is an acronym. And the acronym means that each of the letters stands for a step in the process. So the first is pause and rediscover you. And I'll go through each one of these steps in a lot more detail. The second is observe and reflect on your choices and current state. The third is to wonder and discover, how did you get where you are? Expose, be conscious of any of those limiting beliefs and stories that you have about yourself. Replace, understanding that you have the power to reframe how you think about yourself and how you experience the world. Unlock, which is revealing your highest potential, and then possibility, embracing in a possibility mindset. And we'll go into each one of these in a little bit more depth. Okay. Now, this framework, the first part of it is all around building the self awareness. So, as you're taking time and reflecting and thinking about where you are and how you got there, and those limiting beliefs that are back there and how to replace those, you are embracing personal power. You are starting to own your power, come into it, embrace it, accept yourself at a higher level. And once you get to that point, you can start to unlock all of the possibilities that are out there for you, and they're limitless. And so that's the part where you're really building confidence and you're really starting to get to that whole piece around growth. So that's how the framework works. It's a stepwise process. And what I tell people when they go through this process and when they are looking at the book, I mean, the book, you can see the book here, it's thin, right? It's a quick read. People tell me it's a pretty easy read, but the work itself is difficult. And so that's the thing that people have to understand, that each one of these steps builds upon itself. And you may connect more with one of the steps in the process or chapters in the book more than others. And that might be the better place for you to start. And that's okay too. But these are all steps to kind of help support you and guide you as you move in your journey towards personal development and growth. So the first part of the book is called Getting to Know You. The book is in 3 sections, and the framework is really in 3 sections. And the first one is section 1, Getting to Know You, which is exactly what it says. You're getting to know yourself better. So the first step is to pause and rediscover you. Now, I call it rediscover you because for most people, if you look back to your younger self, your teens, your early adulthood, you knew who you were and what you wanted. You knew what you were passionate about. And as we make choices and we're going through our adulthood, sometimes that can change. So that's why I like to call it rediscover yourself. By taking a pause from your life and stepping back and reflecting, you need to really do a couple of things to get to rediscover yourself. The first is understanding your values. And the values are the principles or things that guide us in our decision making as we move through our life. They're sort of our non-negotiables, right? And they're different for everybody. And so really being able to clarify your values, that set of principles by which you live, is the first step in the process, so that you can bounce things against those values as you make decisions. It'll help to guide you better in decisions that are more aligned with who you are and what's most essential to you. The next is to document a few things, your passions. And those are the things that just light you up, make you excited, get you like just in the flow when you're doing them, whether it's a hobby or at work. And the things that just make you like smile and get excited. And then you want to also document your superpowers. And your superpowers are the skills and talents and knowledge and experience that you bring to the table. And they're superpowers because they belong to only you. There is only one you with the set of skills and talents and knowledge and experience that are all packaged together. And it's the value that you bring to the world, into your life every single day. And those are superpowers, but you don't celebrate yourself enough for that. We don't tend to celebrate everything that we bring to the table. Instead, we go back to that negative self-talk that so many of us have and kind of put ourselves down and ask us, who are we to be whatever, right? Authors, for example, like myself. So why are you not an author if that's what you want to do and that's a passion? So again, recording your passions, recording your superpowers, and then thinking, what is my reason for being? What is my purpose? What do I do that feels meaningful to me? And where do I want to spend my time and effort? So for me, ever since I was a child, my reason for being was to be a healer, to be a doctor. I never thought about wanting to be anything else. So it was really important for me to be a physician, but not so much about being a physician. It was really around being a healer. And the other two pieces for me were being a leader and being a teacher. So those three things together, and I've been really blessed in my life because I've been able to find positions and roles and jobs where I was able to integrate those things together as a healer, teacher, and a leader. So really kind of taking some time to understand what your purpose is and your reason for being, and then taking that information from about like all those different points that we just talked about, taking all of that information and creating a personal vision statement for yourself. And this can be a little bit of a sticky point for some folks because to be able to actually write that down can be scary. And it doesn't have to be. You can take your values, passions, superpowers, and your purpose or mission in this life and kind of put that together to where you want to think about yourself in a like a 1 to 2 year time frame. It doesn't have to be 5 years from now. It can be just the next year or two, even the next 60 days if that's what's meaningful to you. But generally with a vision statement, you want to look for something that's going to be like a 12 to 18 month thing. And we kind of put these statements out there for businesses, if you will. We do strategic planning. We look out usually a 2 to 3 year period of time and create a plan around that of where we want to go, understanding what we are as an organization and our reason for being, and then where we want to go in the future over the next couple of years. And you can do the same thing for yourself. Sometimes it can be hard, as I mentioned, to write those things down. So starting with how you want to feel is a good first step. And it could be, I want to be, I want to feel more content and peace in my life or more joy in my life. It could be something like, I've always wanted to live in Seattle. Okay, in 18 months, I see myself living in Seattle, working at a job that brings me joy. It could be something as simple as that. But what you want to do is create something for yourself so that you have something that you can look out to as a goal. The second step in the process is to observe. Now, in this step, what I'm asking you to do is to think about your life like a scientist would. As a physician, I'm trained in science. And so as a scientist, you step back and you observe facts. When patients come and work with us, we observe the facts of their physical exam, what they're telling us. We put these things together with lab tests, etc. And we very objectively try to understand what is going on with the individual. You need to do the same thing with your life. If you reflect on your choices and you reflect on on where you are right now, and you're honest with yourself and you ask, how did I get there? And you just observe those facts and record them, what would you find? I think that a lot of times people will observe all these facts and they'll look at the choices that they've made in their life. And then they look back at the vision statement or some of their passions and they're like, there's a bit of a disconnect here. That's okay. Because part of what we'll do in the observe step is what we call a gap analysis. And in a gap analysis, what you're doing is you're taking the facts of what you observed in your current life and you are bouncing them against where you want to be or what you want to be and looking at how big of a gap is there and then thinking strategically about how to close those gaps. We do this all the time in businesses. So in our companies, as we have that idea of where we want to be in 2 to 3 years, then we objectively look at where we are now and we say, what do we need to do to change what we are now to where we want to go? If we want to increase our market share, if we want to improve the community's health around diabetes, what do we need to do around that? And we'll create a 1 year plan for ourselves where we're monitoring ourselves over and over and over to see how we're moving towards our goals and closing those gaps. You can do the same thing with yourself. You can look at where you are now and how you got there and where you want to go and say, okay, if I want to move to Seattle and I want to have a job that is bringing me joy and what I really love to do is cook pastries, then what do I need to do to get there? Because right now I'm living in Naples, Florida, where I am today, and I don't have a job. So how am I going to get there? Like, what are the things that I need to do to close that gap? Maybe it's I have to go get some education around pastry cooking, or maybe not, because I already know how to do that. I do a really good job. Maybe it's looking for a job out in Seattle first that will allow me to do some of this work in a bakery or for a restaurant. And then I can look to go out there and get an apartment. I mean, so there are ways that you can close that gap. But it's objectively looking at where you are in your life right now and the choices that you made and just being really honest with them. Because when you made those choices, they're not good or bad choices. They were just made based on the information that you had at the time and what you needed to do because of what was going on in your life. And sometimes it's financial reasons that we make decisions, or family and life issues that we have to adapt to. So there's all different reasons why we get to the point in our lives that we are, and there may be a discrepancy between where we are and where we might want to go in the future. The third step is to wonder how you got there. So now that you know where you are, you can start to find the root cause or basis for how you got to your present state. Now, I'll give you an example. So the five whys is a method. It's a process improvement method. Peter Drucker brought it out in the mid 1900s, and it's used by Toyota. It's used by a lot of companies to help to get to a root cause. We use it all the time in healthcare because we have adverse events that happen to patients. And it's usually not because one person just made a mistake. It's usually that there's a process of care delivery that was flawed in some way. And so we use the five whys method to figure out what was going on in that process that created this adverse event, this damage, something bad that happened to a person. And once we understand the process and where it broke down, we can do something about that process and make improvements. You can do the same thing with your life. So you can apply the five whys method to your own life, to a situation or an issue or problem, like there's this big gap between where I am and where I want to go. So let me give you an example for that, just something concrete that you can think about. In this situation, say I can't find socks. So my problem today is that I can't find any clean socks. Why? I can't find clean socks because I didn't do my laundry. Why? I don't like to do laundry. Why? I always had to do the laundry when I was a kid. It was one of my chores. Okay, so why don't you like laundry? If I didn't do it right, if I didn't meet expectations, I get yelled at. Oh, okay. So what happened is now every time you think about having to do laundry, I feel bad. Okay, that makes sense, right? Because when you were a little kid and someone made you feel bad, you thought you were bad. And your body, your mind just kind of carries that through. And we'll go into this in a little bit in the next section. But your brain is trying to keep you from any danger, perceived danger, real danger, bears jumping out at you, or anything that's in your head. So at some point in your mind, you lay down that laundry made you feel bad. And now you don't want to do your laundry. Well, there's a couple things that you can do about that, right? You could buy more socks so you don't have to do laundry as often. You can send your laundry out so you never have to do laundry. Or maybe you rethink the way that you think about laundry and feel about laundry. So just an example of how you can apply the 5 why method to an issue or a problem and get to the root cause. There's a lot of information that's out there about the 5 whys, and it's a great method. You can start with just a simple problem and kind of use it, and then you can start to apply it in a way that helps you with that gap that you have of where you are in your current state and why maybe you made some of the decisions that you had. I know that I applied it to myself, and when I did, during that 6 week time frame, I had to take accountability for the fact that I had created my own glass ceiling at work. I was behaving in a certain way in order to be approved and accepted at work. And doing so kept me really good at my job, but kept me growing into more senior position that I really wanted to get to because I was trying to please my boss and the CEO of the company. So when you go through this process, sometimes it's a little hard because you have to be honest and accept yourself, which is where some of the common hurdles happen in this section 1. The first thing is, as I mentioned before, and you'll hear me say this over and over, you have to do the work. You have to take time. You have to do self-reflection. You can't do this in the busyness of the day. You need to kind of step back and journal and think about some of these questions. And when you go through this process, especially as you start to observe where you are and the gap that you might have for where you want to go, and you're starting to go through the 5 whys and find out that some of the things that have happened in your life, you have to take full accountability for. It can be uncomfortable, and that discomfort can be not just emotional and mental. As you go through this process, you'll also find that it's physical, because as you are bringing up these emotions, you will start to get sensations in certain parts of your body. And it's all because of the way that your brain works. And we'll go into that in a little bit more depth in a bit, but can also really start to impact you from a spiritual perspective, where you say, oh gosh, I've lost sort of my way. It does require an open mind, and you have to be, as I mentioned, accountable, but it's also about being very honest with yourself and how you got to where you are. So that means being honest about some of your behaviors and actions and reactions, and just accepting those, and accepting what we refer to as your shadow parts. So the shadow parts are the part of you, and oftentimes they'll come up as you start to expose things with your 5 whys, and start to ask yourself how you got here. Your shadow parts are the parts that you hide from other people, and that you might be ashamed about or afraid of sharing with others, because they may not accept you or love you or approve of you, and they make us a little bit fearful about sharing those parts. The shadow parts aren't bad. In fact, they're one of your greatest teachers. But a lot of us will shy away from those shadow parts. It's important, as we build self-awareness, to bring those shadow parts to light, because that's how you can start to ask questions and be curious and say, well, why did I do that? And why did I make that choice? Okay. And was it a good or bad choice? No. It was a choice that was made because of the information that you had, and you were doing the best that you could at the time. And so when we're going through this process and we're understanding that, we can be gentle with ourselves and be curious and open to learning, and be accepting of everything that has happened before and who we are. Because there's no good or bad. It's just parts of us, and all these parts make us who we are as human beings. And so you really have to let go of being a judge in your life. You have to not judge yourself and be self-critical. You need to suspend that judgment of yourself and others, and truly accept everything that you are as a human being and what you bring to the table, and understand that the past is in the past. You can't do anything about that. And it's important for you to be in your present moment, and then figure out about where you want to go next. Which then brings us to section 2. So section 2 I call power play. And with this, it's only 2 chapters, but it's a lot of meat. There's a lot of stuff going on in those 2 chapters. So now we're to the E in power, expose. Expose is when you become conscious of the limiting beliefs that are there in the background, influencing how you behave, how you act, the decisions that you make in your life. And so a lot of these are outdated ways of thinking and experiencing yourself in the world. And bringing these up for yourself allows you to see them and then replace them, which is the next step. So the first part is really getting to that story that you're telling yourself, a way that you're looking at yourself in the world or experiencing the world, and understanding what doesn't fit anymore. Because the narrative or story that you create started the minute that you could feel. All of your thoughts, all of your senses were bringing in information into your nervous system 24/7, 365. So throughout your whole life, you've had data flowing into your nervous system. And the nervous system works through chemical and electrical connections that lay down pathways in your brain. It's kind of an easy way to say. So you got all these highways and byways of pathways in your brain, all chemical and electrical reactions that are happening. And as you take in your data, your brain is taking that information and trying to make sense of it, lays information down into your memory banks that can then be used in the future. And what's interesting is that you have a conscious mind and you have an unconscious mind. Your conscious mind is only using up 3 to 5% of the energy your brain uses every single day. And over 85% is being used by your subconscious, which is really amazing because we're living in our consciousness all the time, right? We're thinking, we have thoughts, we're reading, things are in our consciousness. We can see them, reacting to them right now as we're conscious in our higher parts of our brain, the higher functioning parts of our brain. Your subconscious resides in the background. Now, the subconscious is vitally important because it keeps you alive and out of danger. Your brain wants to keep you safe. Your brain wants to conserve energy. These are a couple concepts that you want to remember because your subconscious mind takes all that information, lays it down in the background. In the background, it is working to keep your digestive system working, your heart beating, your breathing, and you don't even have to think about it, right? Because all these things are happening and your brain is taking care of it. Your subconscious has got it going on. Your subconscious is also scanning the environment and taking the data in through all of your senses all of the time. Huge amounts of data that are coming in all the time. And as this information is coming in, your subconsciousness is staying alert for any dangers that might be out there. And they can be real dangers, like a snake in the path as you're walking, or a car that might be hitting you as you step off the sidewalk, a bear jumping out of you on a trail in the woods. Those are real, right? But your subconscious doesn't understand sometimes that some of these are memories that you have that are not true, real dangers. They're more perceived dangers. They're more in your head kind of dangers. And so let me give you an example of that. And I have it in the book too. It's a pretty simple example that most people can get. Say you're asked to do public speaking. It makes you freeze every time. You get sick to your stomach, right? You get your palms get sweaty. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. It's pretty common for people to have a fear around public speaking. If you go through the 5 whys and you kind of go back, you may identify that the first time you felt the same feeling and started to feel bad about public speaking was when you were in the 4th grade and you had a presentation to do and you're walking up to the front of the class and you trip and you fall and all the other kids laughed at you. What that made you feel was pretty bad. And so your memory stored that. Your subconscious memory stored that. So anytime that you get into a similar situation, your body starts to flag you that something is a danger for you. So as someone comes forward and says, hey, Jackie, do you want to do this public speaking engagement? You'll do your best to get out of it. I'll do my best to get out of it because it starts to make me feel bad. I start to get that yucky feeling in my stomach. My hands start to get sweaty. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. So that's a limiting belief, right? Because that was a memory that was laid down in my childhood. And so the narrative or story that I have is that I can't do public speaking. I'm not good at it. I can't do it. It's not good for me. It's a scary thing. That's an old and outdated way of thinking. Because as an adult, I know that I have a lot of great information that I might be able to share. I might be a subject matter expert in something. So I want to be able to share that information with other people, and public speaking would be a great way to do it, or speaking or presenting to a group. So that's an old way of thinking about yourself. Just like you grow and get too big for a pair of pants or a shirt or your other clothes, like your shoes or your sneakers when you were a kid, just like you grow as a person, as a child into an adult, and your clothes no longer fit you or the styles no longer fit you, the same can happen with your narrative story or those limiting beliefs. They don't fit anymore. And so you have to be able to expose the ones that don't fit or align with who you are and where you're going, and let them go. And you can do that because replace is the next step. And in replace, you have the power to change that narrative, change that story, rewrite it, reframe it, and replace it in your mind so that that new way of thinking and experiencing the world and yourself becomes the default for your brain. And I think what's important here is everything that you learned and how you think about yourself and the way that you've made decisions, that was all learned and it can be unlearned. And you can reframe and relearn something new. You can learn something new. We have the ability to create new pathways in our brain our whole lives. I mean, think about it. You learned how to ride a bike, and like maybe last week you learned the lyrics to a new song. You're always able to learn new things. So you can let go of what's been done in the past and reframe and rewrite your story for the future, how you want to experience yourself and the world. Now, just like we talked about in exposing that fourth grader who fell down and it made them feel sick to their stomach and their hands got sweaty. So it happens every single time since then. Your body records, your body remembers, your body holds score. That's the name of a book. It's a really good one. Um, and so when you want to replace something, you can't just think your way into doing it. You have to use multiple senses, and it takes practice to build those new neuronal pathways going forward. And as I mentioned, your brain likes to conserve energy. So you have to do these things over and over and over so that your brain will start to use these new pathways as your default. And they will over time, but you have to practice it. So what are some of the common barriers to this section? Well, you have to understand neuroplasticity, which is what I just talked about. It's the ability to learn new things and lay down new neuronal pathways, new chemical and electrical interactions in your nervous system to create new ways of thinking. And by using those over and over again, and combining your thoughts with saying things out loud, saying it in front of a mirror. I know it feels weird, but saying that you are awesome and that you love public speaking and saying it over and over in the mirror, those affirmations do make a difference, and it will become your go-to over time, especially if you use what we call somatic anchors. Now, those are when we use something that we're doing physically in our body that help our memory banks take lots of information from our senses. It makes those memories stronger, and then those feelings will come back along with the memory over time as you get into similar situations that alert your subconscious, bring information up to your conscious mind, and say, hey, it's time to act. So let me give you sort of an example of that. An anchor could be something as simple as I'm gonna pinch my second finger, or I'm gonna make a fist, or I'm gonna clap, or I'm gonna put my hands on my hips and feel like that. I'm gonna stand in the mirror and I'm gonna say, I am awesome. I am awesome. And I'm going to stand and I'm going to do a fist pump. And when I do those things over and over, my brain is taking all of that information together, creating it, storing it in my memory banks. And so when I need to dig into that again for some reason, it comes right back to me and I will say, I feel all that. I feel all that. Yeah. And I'll get excited. And so you can learn to do these things. It just takes a little bit of time. And the anchor is important because the more that you can use different senses, just like helping us to be present with mindfulness by using our senses to be really present in the moment, using all those senses helps to lay down those memories and those pathways even better. And so doing it over and over and having multiple ways of sensing it and creating that memory really do make a difference. So use an anchor when you're doing it. And so that's the whole concept of neuroplasticity. And then the narrative is just the stories that are built up in our brains that we create about ourselves, and they're really influenced by our family of origin, our coaches, our teachers, our religion, our culture. All of those things in our environment come to play and impact how we think about ourselves or the story that we create in our brain about ourselves. And so it's the more that you're conscious and aware that this is happening, then you can expose what doesn't fit anymore, let it go, and build something new. And use your different senses in order to anchor that. Practice it over time, just like you had to practice riding a bike or driving a car till you got real good at it. The next concept is self-empowerment versus having power. And again, it's about owning your power, not having to be in control of everything. And then the next piece I just want to go into is a little bit about masculine and feminine power constructs. There are two different constructs. The masculine power construct has been in play for millennia. And so it's kind of hardwired into us, especially women. And if you're, if you're not as strong, perhaps as others in the community, for whatever reason. And so in the masculine construct, there's winners and there's losers. And it's all around scarcity. There's not enough to go around because there can only be a winner and a loser. It can't be lots of winners. And it's usually where there's, someone in power. And when that happens, oftentimes we can give our power away in order to be accepted and approved and safe. And that makes perfect sense because in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, after basic things like shelter and water and food, the next thing up on that hierarchy is the need for being approved and accepted and loved. And you can't move further up that hierarchy until you have those sense of safety and feeling approved and accepted and loved. And so we will oftentimes make decisions or behave in certain ways not because it's exactly what we wanted to do or where we wanted to go, but because we want to feel safe. And if you think about, 1,000 years ago, if you were a woman or anyone else in a tribe or a group and you were not accepted, you'd be thrown out of the group. You could be attacked by animals, you wouldn't have access to food and water, you wouldn't have access to shelter, etc. So you would start to just fit in with whatever that power hierarchy was in order to make sure that you were safe and could be kept alive. That's that masculine kind of mentality. So it's a winners and losers. It's all around competition, and it creates a lot of competition in the workplace or in other places in our lives. The feminine power construct is one where it's much more collaborative, cooperative, much more nurturing. There's empathy there. So it tends to be more around teams and bringing people's perspectives together. I know that I struggled in a masculine hierarchical type of construct because it didn't seem to fit me. I feel better in a more collaborative, cooperative environment. It's the kind of style that I have from a leadership perspective. Not that you can't make the hard decisions when you need to, or I can make those hard decisions. Um, but I feel more comfortable on a day-to-day basis living in that more feminine power construct. Masculine and feminine power constructs are not good and bad. There's not one that's better than the other. One's not evil and the other one's awesome. In fact, a good leader will balance these power constructs or models based on the situation at hand. Sometimes you need command and control because it's just chaos. There's an emergency happening and you have to make quick decisions and get everyone going so that people will be safe. Other more complex situations arise, and you really need to have that collaborative, team-based perspective, empathy, being able to pull everything to the table, like pull everyone's knowledge and superpowers to the table so that they can help make good decisions in that complex decision-making environment. So it's not like it's good or bad. It's just that sometimes you may feel that you thrive or do a little better in one construct versus the other. So just being aware of that. As I mentioned, there's a tendency sometimes to give your power away and you don't even know it. So being able to be aware of that and ask yourself, why? Why am I giving my power away? Oh, it's because I need to have approval for this. Well, why do I need that? And kind of dig a little deeper as you go through reflection to help you with your growth, right? To help you understand yourself better so that you can make adjustments moving forward. And then the whole concept that rewiring your brain, you can't just think your way to it, you actually have to act. So just like you learn anything else and build those pathways so that they become more automatic, like driving a car or opening a door, you had to learn them at some point and do it over and over again. And so it's just something to make sure that you're staying aware of as you go through this process, because it can take a little bit of time. So that brings us to the third section, which is rise and shine. So here you're unlocking and revealing your highest potential and then embracing a possibility mindset. Let's start with unlock. So when I talk about unlocking your highest potential, it's pushing yourself out of your comfort zone so that you can get to that growth and that learning. And it can be scary sometimes, right, to move out of our comfort zones. And so I'll go through that in just a few minutes. But what you really need to do is push yourself past fear so that you can get into learning and growth. And once you have a way of doing that, and I'll show you a way that I like to use through rapid cycles of change, then, as you start to do that, you build confidence and more courage. And as you build more confidence, you're more willing to put yourself out there and to continue to push yourself past your comfort zone. out of your comfort zone so that you could grow and learn. So you might start with something really small that might be physical that you can achieve, and then move on to something bigger that you want to achieve based on your vision statement and where you want to go. The last step is around possibility thinking. Here, it's learning a couple things. One is abundance, a mindset of abundance. Now, with a mindset of abundance, it's not that scarcity thinking, right? That gets us into winners and losers. There's not enough to go around. In an abundance mindset, there is more than enough to go around, more than enough titles, more than enough wealth, more than enough, um, you know, uh, people approving of you, more than enough everything. That there's an abundance of things out there for yourself. There's limitless opportunities out there for yourself, or possibilities out there for yourself. And that gets you into possibility thinking. If you come from a place of abundance where there's enough for all of us and we all want to support each other and grow, then you can also say, well, there's limited possibility for me then, right? Limited potential, unlimited potential rather, sorry, unlimited possibility. You have to stay open and to think about what are those possibilities and to dream it. Because if you can dream it, you can manifest it. Now, here I like to use brainstorming. A lot of people will do brainstorming in a group setting, so it's not uncommon to use this at work. And in a brainstorming session, everyone sits around the table and someone facilitates and goes, okay, give me your idea to solve this problem, your idea to solve this problem. And you go around the room. So you come up with a problem and then you find all the different ways that you could solve that problem. And you write those all down. And then you look at the list and you say, well, what are the ones that we could actually achieve, do in a certain time frame, have the resources to accomplish, et cetera. And you start to prioritize those. You can do the same thing for yourself. And in fact, studies have shown, research shows that for more complex types of situations, individual brainstorming can be extremely effective. So what you want to do here is just start to list out for yourself. I like whiteboards. I like to draw on whiteboards. But anything, just a piece of paper, anything, your favorite device to jot things down, and notes on your phone. You want to start to list out all of the possible options that you have for yourself. And there's an unlimited, like whatever you can think of. It be big, be bold, be crazy, because if it makes you laugh, there's probably something to it. And if you don't just jot it down and think about it, then it never can become a reality, right? So what you want to do here is to try to solve a problem for yourself. And I like to bring it back to the vision that you had. How do you attain the goals that you want to set for yourself, or where you want to go in the future? What are the options that you have? And just capture as many of those as possible. And sometimes it'll seem kind of crazy, like there's no way I could do that. You have to, again, suspend all judgment and be completely open and curious as to what could happen. It may not happen, but what if it could? And so you want to capture that and make sure that you're not limiting yourself in any way. The bigger, the bolder, the better. Be crazy. It's okay, because after you get that whole big list, then you can go through and prioritize it based on your goals for yourself. And you'll see that, some of these have dependencies, like I can't do X until I do Y. Okay, so I got to do X first. Well, how do I get to X? So by doing this, you're just kind of seeing for yourself what might be possible for yourself. And then you can go through and prioritize the top couple that make the most sense for you at this point to get to the goal that you have and want to achieve. Let's go back to comfort zone. So in the comfort zone, you're feeling pretty safe, right? You're in a very safe place. It feels good. So you don't want to move out. Feels good. So that's great. But the problem is, if you're never moving out of your comfort zone, and this happens to a lot of people as they get older, if you never move out of your comfort zone starts to shrink, and you go less and less and less and less places because you're just staying where you're in your comfort zone. You got to get out of your comfort zone. And the first zone after that is the fear zone. So this is the one where you don't have a whole lot of confidence in yourself. And so you'll start to make excuses. I can't do that. How am I going to do that? I don't know how to do that. So you start to make those excuses until you push yourself into and past that fear zone. You can't get into your learning and your growth zones. So your learning zone is where you're like, oh, okay, I have a challenge. I'm going to try to rise to that challenge. What did I learn? And then you keep doing that over until you get to your growth, where you are in a new place and you can apply that new skill, that new information that you've gotten now, to new things in your life. And you can go even further. You can get to that possibility. So that's what we mean by getting out of your comfort zone. If we go to something really basic, like, well, you've all been very successful. All of you have been successful in getting out of your comfort zone. Y'all have done things and learned new things. So if we go to bike riding, the first time you get on a bike, right? You may be like, oh my gosh, what happens if I fall down? I'm going to scrape my knee. I could break a bone. And so there's fear there, right? About being able to ride that bike. You get on the bike, you fall a couple of times, you learn. So now you're into your learning zone. You're like, okay, I fell down. Nothing bad happened. It's okay. I can get up and I'm going to try again. And so you get back in and try again, and you finally learn to pedal that bike down the street. And then you can pedal the bike around the block. And now you're feeling really good about pedaling the bike all over the place. So now you're in your growth zone. You're like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to learn how to do a motorcycle next. So maybe you do the motorcycle, or maybe it's a moped next. But you can build on the fact that you've gotten out of your comfort zone before and have confidence that you know how to do this. You've done it before. You've learned how to drive a car. You went to college, or you went to school, or you got a new job. Those are all things that you took the opportunity to go out of your comfort zone in. So you know how to do it. You just need to build on the places where you've already had success to help you feel that you can move and do this again. And then lean into the places where it's the scariest. And the way that I like to help people in getting into that scary place and challenging yourself is through rapid cycles of change or challenge. In healthcare, we use this all the time. So, rapid cycles of improvement is used by the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and it's adopted by a lot of healthcare organizations around the country. And what you do in that situation is that you set a goal, you try something, then you assess it, right? Study it. We call it the PDSA cycle: plan, do, study, act. So you plan something based on a goal, you do something, you study it, and then you make some adjustments to it, and then you try again. And if you're doing this over and over and over again, you continue to see continued progress towards where you want to get to, and you start to build momentum. It's called a flywheel. So here, what I like to do is adjust it a little bit for an individual as you're thinking about your transformational growth and development, is to think about it from a goal that you have, a challenge that you're going to put forward for yourself, then assess that challenge and then edit it. What do you need to adjust to go and try again? So say my goal is, I had a goal this year. I was going to do a 10K. And I wanted to run a 10K, but I couldn't. So I wanted to do the 10K. Now I've done a 5K in the past, so I knew that I could build on that. So I started by saying, okay, I want to do this and I want to do it within a certain time frame. My challenge to myself was to go further than the 5K. So 5K is just over 3 miles. So what I did is I'm going to do 4 miles. And so my challenge was to do 4 miles, see how I did, and then assess it and then make some adjustments. What I found is I could do the 4 miles. I couldn't go as fast. It took me longer than I wanted to. So then the next challenge was, okay, I'm going to do 4 miles, but I'm going to do it a little bit faster than I did last time. And so I tried that, and that didn't necessarily work for me either. So I said, okay, what I'll do then my next challenge is that I'm going to go to 4.5 miles and try to do it within this time frame and see how I do. So instead of going fast, I'm just going to kind of work up towards the getting to 6 or 7 miles. And so I was able to continue to adjust to get to the point where I could complete the full 10K. It took me longer than I wanted it to, but I was okay with that because what I wanted to do was to complete the 10K and support some friends of mine who were raising money for cancer. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to do the 10K. I just had to finish the 10K. So I was able to complete that based on a series of challenges that I set for myself, and then I made some adjustments. When you go through this process, you may not get to the goal that you wanted, but it's not a failure. You didn't fail. There's no failures here. It's lessons that you're learning from. So whatever you tried may not have worked the way that you wanted it to get you to where your goal is. That's okay, because that's where the assessment comes in, and then you can adjust it and say, like I did, okay, instead of the time, I'm going to focus on the distance. And that's what's going to be important to me. I'm going to adjust my goal maybe a little bit, but I'm going to still complete the 10K. I'm just going to allow myself the time to complete it that I need to based on my body, what my body wants to do or not. Um, and so and so you can continue to learn if you're open and you're curious and you have that possibility mindset and you're willing to unlock your potential and think about yourself differently based on rewriting your story and letting go of those old beliefs, right, that are limiting you. If you can let go of some of that and challenge yourself, you can get into that growth cycle, and that builds momentum over the time. When you're thinking about a goal, you want to make it a SMART goal. So when we talk about a SMART goal, that's something that's very specific and it's measurable. You know if you achieved it or not. It's achievable. It's something that you can actually do. And it's also time. It's got a time limit to it as well. So that's always a good thing to keep in mind when you're setting goals. All right. So what are some of the common barriers that you see? You can run out of steam. The first two sections are hard work. Again, it takes time. And it takes effort and work to develop the goals and challenge yourself. Accountability. So when you have to take accountability and kind of, understand some of the things that you're limiting for yourself, it can be kind of a yucky feeling, but it's okay. I mean, it's just giving you information for you to use in the future. And that's where that higher level of self-awareness is just so important, and being conscious of how you make decisions and behave and act so that you can do something about it differently in the future. Sometimes it can be hard to come to life with an abundance mindset, and it's something that you just have to remind yourself about. So those are a few things. All right. So if all this stuff is so easy and you got this, process that has a framework, et cetera, et cetera, great. Like if it's so easy, then why do so many of us have difficulty sustaining this for longer term? Why do we sometimes fall back into our old habits? Why do we sometimes move back from change? And it's not easy because you can't just think your way. You have to really take action. You have to be open to that growth, and you have to be really gentle with yourself, because the time it takes for one person in a few of these steps may not be the time it takes for another person. And so you have to really allow yourself the time to go through. And, a couple of survey questions here that I have for the group of you is, how many of you have tried something like this in the past? I mean, I've tried these things in the past. And how many of you have achieved your goals? Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. And what I found is, it's a really iterative process. And I find that being able to, when I'm reflecting, being able to share that with others, either through a mentor or a guide, a therapist, a friend, a family member that I trust, having someone else that I can discuss this stuff with, and or a sense of community to like share this with, can be really helpful. So in the book, I have a chapter at the end called Going Forward, and it's really about letting people know that you are unique. You're the only you in this world. You have gifts that you need to share with people. You have a purpose and a reason for being, skills and just talents that no one else has. So you got to bring them to the table. We need you. The world needs all of us right now for us to shine our light. And you are this powerful, wonderful, beautiful person. And you just need to know that and embrace that and feel empowered by that. You're not alone in this journey. We're all here with you. Thanks for all the butterflies and hearts that are coming through. I love that. So you have options. Being a part of the community, if you go to DelanaInstitute.com, you can subscribe and just be a part of our community. As I mentioned, I put out 2 blogs a month. They're just from my head. You may like them or not. It's okay. I also have a newsletter that comes out once a month. I always try to have a wellness tip. What I call a manifest your best self tip is just, around development and growth, just celebrating the month in general, and always a healthy recipe to try. So you can just be part of our community and, sharing the events and things that we're doing. I do have a virtual independent learning Power Up online course that'll be coming, launching in a few weeks. And that will take basically everything we've talked about here in the framework, go even a little bit deeper. So with that, I'll go through that in just a second, but it's another opportunity for you. If you just want the book signed, you can reach out to me and I will get that to you at a reduced cost. The retail cost is $16.99. I can get it to you for $15 and send you a signed copy if you want. Just let me know. I'm also going to be having what's called a masterclass, and this is going to be a little bit more unique because I'm going to take a smaller group of individuals over a year or so and work with them towards their goals. So they'll work with me, and I'll share some information on that. But it's really about going deeper with people who are ready for that and want that at this point. I'm going to have a Rise and Shine retreat. I've got an event that's going to be in Clearwater on solstice at a yoga village. If you're in the greater Tampa Bay area, more on that to come. But I will be having more of a longer retreat on a lot of this coming forward. I was hoping to do it this fall, but with everything going on in the world, not quite sure how that's going to work. So I am selling nothing right now, so you don't have to click out of this. The virtual independent course is $29.99. You get a signed copy of the book. There'll be an e-workbook that goes into a lot of this and 6 modules that are PowerPoints with recordings of me kind of going deeper into each one of these steps with you. And then you also have the opportunity for drop-in events, which I'm going to do probably the second Saturday of the month around this time frame, just for people to ask questions, go over barriers, have opportunities for shared learning. And then I do have, like, if you say, hey, I was here today, I watched this video, etc., been part of this, then we can definitely get you some reductions in the cost as well. Now, the masterclass is more expensive, and I don't expect a lot of people to like move towards this. There is a limited number of seats because there's a limited amount. Well, there's me. I'm limited in what I can do for others, and I want to be able to be there for folks in the masterclass. So this will allow people to have an individualized assessment plan, a roadmap, an hour-long session each month. We'll do the drop-in coaching calls to address barriers and have that shared learning, and then develop a roadmap for folks afterwards. And then there'll also be a bonus of 3 months of coaching afterwards and a signed book if people are interested in that. And I think what's most important to me is you know what's your best fit and what's best for you right now. So it could be just listening to this will give you some inspiration to continue on your journey and not be afraid to embrace everything that you are and expose those shadow parts and realize that you have the power to let go of some of the ways that you were considering or thinking about yourself. You don't have to hold yourself back anymore. You can let go of those limiting beliefs and adopt new ones by using the way your brain, just leverage how your brain works to create new pathways using all of your senses and your thoughts and your words. Words matter in helping you to move forward. So it may be that just watching this today gives you enough inspiration, and that is awesome. If you want to join us at DeLonInstitute.com, you can do that. We would love to have you as part of our community. You can get the blogs, newsletters, etc. If you want to go deeper than that, we're here for you. I'm here for you. And whatever you do choose, there's 100% no risk. So if you're not satisfied and the program's not working for you, you get your money back. You will get your money back. So this is not for selling today. This is a call to action. So what I mean by that is you are important, unique, and you need to shine your light. I want to help you on your journey, and that's what the Power Up book was designed for. It's helped me. I have used this approach not just after my injury. And when I showed you that picture of my story, the picture to the right where I was in the cervical collar was when I was in the hospital. The one to the left was only 4 months afterwards, where I was doing a lot of this work. What's interesting is I'm still doing this work. This week, I had to accept that I've had a guarded personality because of fear of not feeling safe or approved because of my dysfunctional family when I was a kid. And my story's in my book. But you know, even now, even where I designed this Power Up framework, I'm still using it. It's an iterative process. So just realize that the most important thing here is to that call to action, to be there for yourself and to take action to move forward, because you can do this. You can totally do this. So I thank you so much for joining us today. The QR code here will take you to Amazon if you wanted to purchase the book off Amazon, but you can also just reach out to me and I can get you a signed copy of the book at a reduced cost. I'm happy if you go to Amazon and purchase it too, but this isn't so much about selling the book as it is about inspiring you to shine your light. So that's all I have for today. I appreciate your being here today with me, and I appreciate your patience as we did the live YouTube video today, my first time. This isn't part of my comfort zone that I had left today, and I screwed up the first one. So if you see the first video, that's me trying to get the lighting right and like primping my hair and stuff. So be gentle with me on that one. And thank you for allowing me to learn something new with YouTube Live. So thanks again. I hope to see you join our community, and we're there. I'm there for you in supporting you in your journey. And I wish you all the best and a very happy Saturday. Thank you.